Oscar Pistorius arrives at uncle's mansion after being released from jail. Johannesburg. Oscar Pistorius is with members of his family at his uncle's multi-story mansion Tuesday after being released from prison and moved to house arrest a day earlier than expected, a spokeswoman for the Olympic athlete said. Oscar is here, and Oscar is at home with the family, spokeswoman Anneliese Burgess said, addressing dozens of reporters outside Arnold Pistorius' luxurious home in an upmarket suburb of South Africa's capital Pretoria. The family is happy that Oscar is at home, Burgess said. Pistorius, the double-amputee runner who fatally shot girlfriend Reeva Steenkamp in 2013, was moved from a central Pretoria jail on Monday night when he had been expected to be released on Tuesday. He has served a year of his 5-year sentence for manslaughter for killing Steenkamp. Under South African law, he is eligible to serve the remainder under correctional supervision, a form of house arrest. The decision to release Pistorius, 28, a day earlier was only communicated to his family at short notice, Burgess said. Confirming Pistorius' release, South Africa's Department of Corrections said that the decision over when and how an offender is released is made by the prison. The handling of the actual placement is an operational matter of the local management, and how they handle it is their prerogative that is carried out in the best interest of all parties concerned, the victims, the offender and the Department of Corrections Services, Anneliese Burgess, a spokesman for the department, said in a cell phone text message. The murder trial of Pistorius generated intense international interest, and the surprising decision to release Pistorius a day early, and at night, appeared to have avoided the logistical challenges and spectacle associated with a large gathering of TV crews and other journalists hoping to catch a glimpse of Pistorius on the way out of prison. Burgess was surrounded by reporters and camera crews when reading a prepared statement outside Arnold Pistorius' house on Tuesday morning. Apparently responding to criticism that Pistorius' release after just a year in prison was too lenient, Burgess said Pistorius' sentence has not been shortened or reduced. He now enters the next phase of his sentence. He will serve this under the strict conditions that govern correctional supervision, she said. Under South African law, an offender sentenced to 5 years or less in jail can be released to correctional supervision at home after serving 1/6 of the term in Pistorius' case 10 months. The full conditions under which Pistorius must now live for the next 4 years have not been released by the Corrections Department, and Burgess would not detail them on Tuesday. Only 2 conditions for Pistorius' house arrest were previously made public by the Correctional Services Department. Pistorius must continue to undergo psychotherapy while under house arrest, and he is not allowed to handle any firearms. Pistorius would strictly adhere to the conditions of his release, Burgess said, and his family would support him. Pistorius was acquitted of murder last year for the Valentine's Day shooting death of girlfriend Steenkamp, but prosecutors have appealed the trial verdict of culpable homicide or manslaughter and will seek a murder conviction again at South Africa's Supreme Court on 3 November. If Pistorius is convicted of murder by a panel of 5 judges at the appeal, he faces going back to prison for 15 years, the minimum sentence for murder in South Africa, which no longer has the death penalty. Pistorius has maintained that he thought Steenkamp was an intruder in his Pretoria home and killed her by mistake. Prosecutors said he shot her intentionally during an argument after she fled to a bathroom stall. Pistorius, known as Blade Runner for his carbon fiber running blades, gained worldwide fame when he ran against able-bodied athletes at the 2012 London Olympics, the first amputee runner to compete at the Games. Walila, the Correctional Services Department spokesman, had previously not ruled out ultimately allowing Pistorius to return to training. He also said Pistorius would not be required to wear an electronic tagging device. Pistorius released from prison, begins house arrest. Johannesburg. South Africa's superstar athlete Oscar Pistorius got an early release from prison Monday night, bringing his time behind bars to just over a year. His family made clear that Pistorius is simply going from one prison to another. He is required to spend the remainder of his 5-year sentence under house arrest. It is very important for the family to emphasize that Oscar's sentence has not been shortened or reduced, family spokeswoman Anneliese Burgess told a media scrum gathered outside the Pistorius family mansion Tuesday. He is simply entering the next phase of his sentence now. He will serve this under the strict conditions that govern correctional supervision, she said. Those conditions also include psychotherapy and community service. The icon-turned inmate was due to be released Tuesday, having been granted parole after being convicted of culpable homicide equivalent to the U.S. charge of manslaughter for killing his girlfriend, model Reeva Steenkamp, at his Pretoria home on Valentine's Day in 2013. But correctional officials, in an apparent attempt to sidestep the media frenzy that has trailed the runner since his shocking arrest and hotly followed trial, quietly released him from Pretoria's double-amputee prison Monday night. Under cover of darkness, the athlete, who made history in 2012 as the first double amputee to participate in the Olympics, was driven to his uncle Arnold Pistorius' large home in the wealthy Pretoria suburb of Waterkloof. South Africans raced to social media platforms to weigh in on Tuesday. Reactions ranged from indifference / "we got more serious problems to worry about than this man," wrote user Mbekazeli Zulu, to outrage. Steenkamp's family has maintained that the sentence was too lenient. Pistorius claims he mistook Steenkamp for an intruder when he shot 4 times through a locked bathroom door, killing her. The prosecution argued unsuccessfully that Pistorius intended to kill Steenkamp. The couple were the only 2 eyewitnesses to the events of that night. Preferential treatment. And as always in South Africa, a nation still struggling to heal from the scars left by its decades under the racist apartheid system, race was raised as a factor. Some critics have argued that Pistorius was given preferential treatment because he is white and wealthy. If Oscar Pistorius was black? Different story, said Twitter user Twitter page the morning after. "The best bridge between despair and hope," he wrote, "is a good night's sleep." But this release to the comforts of home, family and a familiar bed is hardly the finish line for Oscar Pistorius. He has been banned from competition for the duration of his 5-year sentence. The prosecution is appealing the verdict on November 3. Oscar Pistorius has been released from prison in South Africa 12 months after starting a 5-year sentence for killing his girlfriend. Sky News legal expert Llewellyn Lewis answers some of the key questions around the case. Why is Oscar Pistorius being released now? Judge Musapa sentenced Pistorius to correctional supervision after he was convicted of culpable homicide. There are 2 types of correctional supervision in South Africa. One can be imposed for 3 years and does not include jail time. The other, which applies to Pistorius, can be imposed for a maximum of 5 years. It means the athlete can be placed under community supervision, house arrest, after serving at least 1/6 of his sentence in prison. Pistorius has done that and so is allowed to serve the rest of his sentence under house arrest. What does house arrest mean? Oscar Pistorius will not be allowed to leave the jurisdiction area of Pretoria without written permission from the Commissioner or Correctional Services and Parole Board. He is allowed to leave the house within certain time frames, usually from dusk until dawn, to go and attend his work, train or to start a rehabilitative program so that he can be taken into society in due course. That is the purpose of it. He will not be able to use or misuse alcohol or substances of any nature whatsoever. Typically he may do community service. He may have to work over weekends in victims programs or in mediation between victims and families and himself. He has expressed some interest in working with children and I can't see any problem with that. He was not convicted of child molestation or something that would exclude him from working with children. There is still an appeal pending. What can we expect? On 3 November the Supreme Court of Appeal in Bloemfontein, South Africa's highest court for non-constitutional matters, will decide whether Judge Masipa was correct in her verdict. 5 judges will hear the appeal, but everything is based on the court record, so no new evidence. The lawyers will be allowed to make submissions, but that is it. Appeals are difficult to win because the judge's initial decision gets the benefit of the doubt. This is because she is the one who heard and saw the witnesses firsthand. If the appeal court finds that Judge Masipa was correct, then that's the end of the road. If not, the court can do whatever it deems necessary to see that justice is done, including a different sentence. He could even be returned to jail. From what we know of the case, how likely is it that the Supreme Court of Appeal will intervene? It's not likely. The Supreme Court of Appeal only have the prerogative to hear the evidence orally. They reconfine to the paperwork. It's not a retrial and there will be no new evidence at all. Also, if there is any doubt, the benefit of that doubt must go to the judge's original verdict. Has Pistorius' sentence been fairly typical for this kind of violent killing, or is there legal credibility behind those who say he has got off lightly? The fact he was convicted of the lesser charge is not extraordinary. Correctional supervision can be imposed for any type of offense in South Africa, although it is very unlikely if the crime comes under minimum sentencing laws. For example, if he had been convicted of murder and not merely culpable homicide. Aside from the appeal, is this the end of Pistorius' legal difficulties, or could he face further action, such as a civil action from the Steenkamp family? Any civil action has to be filed within 3 years of the crime taking place, so, in this case, by 14 February 2016. The Steenkamp family had previously said through their lawyers during the trial that they were not interested in civil action, but they are not bound by that statement. Also, it might be that the correctional supervision requires compensation to be paid. We don't know, it was not disclosed. It might be that he has to pay compensation to the victim's family.